You are listening to the Hammersley Brothers e-commerce podcast. Like what you hear and want to take the shortcut on your e-commerce growth? Join hundreds of brands that work with us and head over to joinhb.com. That's joinhb.com and see how we can help you further. Join our members and smash your targets and unlock the profits within your e-commerce site. Hello Ian, how are you?
Hi Mark. Yeah, I'm well. I'm good actually.
Good.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes. Ecom, busy.
Yeah, always busy.
Busy day. Busy day.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see you. End of a long day. Well, it's not really, it feels like an end of a long day already. I was going to say, because it's the end of your day, it's the beginning of my day. But when you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do some calls, it's 9 a.m. here now. It seems like the middle of the afternoon by the time you get to lunchtime.
What's wrong with your eye?
Nothing.
What? Mark's got a really big
I've got a
swollen
sty
eye.
in it. I've got a sty and it's blown up. And it's from, I was trying contact lenses on, in an optician thing. And I said to her, yeah, I never get styes. It's, I'm unlucky like that, I said. And then literally the next day I woke up and I got a sty in my eye. And it's about 4 days in. So that's why I look like
You got
I've
a
been
face
beaten
for
up.
podcasts, not
I got a
YouTube.
face for radio today. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. If anyone's
good.
got any
I'd like to-
comments, like any solutions, I've got antibiotic
Don't
cream.
rub grit in your eye.
Don't go to the optician. That'd
No.
be my first.
You stop messing around with contact lenses. Maybe you should just wear glasses.
That's what I've been doing. I've got so old now that I can't see. I can't read with the contact lenses without putting glasses on. It's
How
annoying.
old are you? Jesus Christ, what's happened?
I know.
I'm only two and a half
years
years. Yeah, I know. So if
so-
you're getting old, I mean, I'm
blazing a
obviously-
path for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the younger
Anyway,
brother.
people don't
No.
tune in to listen about my eye ailments, and we, unfortunately for us, we came to the end of our 5 series, so we knew what we're doing. Now we've got to come up with a new topic for today,
Yeah,
and
Well-
we have done.
yeah, we have. And you asked me what I've been working on, of late, and if we like to add new things to the level 2 numbers sheet, and generally in the workshop. And what I've been working on is a lot of. I've been looking at people's. So everybody in the program, I've been doing that. I've been adding it to the sheet, looking at everybody. I've been looking at people's ranges. I've been looking at what products are selling, and I've been looking at the relationship between, essentially the number of SKUs and the percentage of what's selling and where the contribution's coming from, effectively. And what I've got in front of me, I've picked five businesses in the program, and I've pulled up all the SKUs and I've been looking at their essentially their SKU count and what they're selling where and what the stock is like, and looking at the businesses where, because I think, look, the hypothesis of this originally is a lot of times we hear that people say that, well, if I add more products, or there's a myth in e-commerce that if I add more products, I'm going to get more sales. And I think that comes from a retail bricks and mortar environment where, if you have, you imagine you go into a supermarket or a grocery store or whatever, you've got, you've got shelves and you've got gondola ends and you've got like dump bins and you've got a lot of merchandising around, getting a bigger space in a retail store. And if you have 2 shelves next to each other, you're basically going to get more eyeballs. So there's a lot of theory about, if we want to sell more, we need to have another rack, another shelf, another gondola end, another feature, another more point of sale. When it comes to e-commerce, that doesn't ring true. In all of Mike's knowledge and experience, I don't think I've ever had an example where they've just added more products at random, and they've fundamentally scaled. Now, that's not to say that we haven't seen businesses who have added products that brought a significant upturn to the maths, and that haven't ramped. Obviously, the product mix is really, really key. Should I tell you about what I've been doing for our own business?
Well,
one of our e-commerce brands.
I just thought you should preference the title of the podcast as what we were saying, which was
the
Pareto's rule of e-commerce, which was the 80-20 rule. Effectively, 20% of the products drive 80% of the revenue. We see that rule across e-commerce in a lot of areas. And so what you're saying is that you're just consistently seeing the contribution of a small amount of products driving a huge amount of revenue. And sometimes out of 1,000 SKUs, it can be 6 products that drive a lot of revenue. And if you had a high street business, you can't really have a shop with 6 products in it because it would look rubbish. Whereas online, people don't know what's selling. And so a lot of the time, they're probably landing on a couple of product pages and they can buy it and stuff. So it's completely different. So that's the concept of it.
Thank you for articulating out of my head, and putting it back into an easy, digestible way. But also, you said there is you can't have a shop on the high street that could have 6 products in it. It would be absolutely ridiculous. But online, it can work really well. I mean, take a business like the hair, the shampoo and conditioner business that's doing like 30 million now. Effectively, they've got really 2 SKUs. I mean, that would be like having a shop on the high street that just sold 2 products, 1 shampoo, 1 conditioner. That would be it. And it would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work. Whereas online, you can. It can work. It can work because we're targeting a specific demographic. We know exactly what they want. The maths work, margins work. So yeah, that is essentially, the hypothesis is that the Pareto rule here applies to lots of things, including your products. So should we take bedding as our little
let's
segue into this
and show how it applies to how the Pareto's rule applies to our own one of our own businesses. Bedding.
Yeah. So this came about because we were selling out. So one of our businesses is a bedding business. People probably know, we've got a bedding business. We're trying to target 8 million this year. We started it a couple of years ago using the model, the program that we run. Same things we teach everybody, keep it simple. Running it for our own business. And we started to have a little bit of gaps in the stock. We did really well over November, December, and when it came to January, we just started to have a couple of gaps of stock in some of the key bestsellers, and it had obviously a big effect. It was like, we got the stock coming in, we knew when replenishment was happening, but it was just like a kind of couple of weeks where the stock hadn't landed because we'd sold more. So anyway, we're like, okay. So we started to look at the products more in the categories and the sell-through rate of the products that we had in a lot more depth, like looking at product category, product type, size. So if you're embedding, for example, the complexity is that you've got the size of the bed, you've got, which is different, comes in different sizes, single, double, king, super king, queen, and you've got the type of sheet, you've got thread counts, different sizes, different thickness of sheets, and you've got different colours. And so we started to look at what we were selling across, the bedding, the flat sheets, the fitted sheets, the pillowcases, the duvets, product types, and worked out that 80% of the products were bedding sets. All right, well, bedding set is like, it includes everything, the duvet case, duvet cover, and pillows. So 80% product sets, and out of that, it was white. 80% was white, and out of that was king and super king. That's king, super king, white bedding sets. So that's 80% of pretty much everything. So it was 80% was bedding set. 80% was actually 800 thread count, not the 300. 80% was king and super king, and 80% was white. So
so it's very concentrated in a few SKUs, basically.
Yeah, very concentrated, a few SKUs. So guess what? We need to have stock of is that, and guess what? We need to go and buy more. So essentially,
that's what we've done a bad job of. Actually, we've done a bad job of not showing us the stock levels in those key products, and not knowing when they're going to go out of stock, or when they're going out of stock, where they've gone out of stock, and then seeing the impact of it. Because I still think that, like, February was difficult because I think we were down for those products. I still think we're down, not down, we're still up year on year, but we're still struggling compared to where we should be because of those stock. And I think that we need, like, there's a report percolating in my head that kind of wants to kind of link everything together, that would show the impact of maybe like a score of what stock levels we've got and how that affects things. Because in certain times of the business, it sometimes feels like you're moving forward, but you're pushing through mud. And then other times it feels like you've got the wind behind you. And I honestly think that whether you've got those products in stock and whether you haven't got those in stock is going to make a massive difference to everything.
Well, the notion is, and we see people doing this as well, is they think, well, I've not got those in stock, but people will come and buy the other stuff, right? They'll come and buy the other stuff. The colours that are, not quite the right colours, or not quite the right thing. We'll sell more 300 thread counts, or we'll sell more, light brown, colours. But they don't. They don't. They go off and buy from somebody else.
Does it? Because if you think of, let's say you're driving a lot of it from Google Shopping. Google Shopping is going to have all the algorithm, all the data on those products. Google, it doesn't know that the other products are pretty much exactly the same. So it's not going to just replace them very, very quickly. It's going to take time for the models to be built up on those new products. So it's not like it's not like it's a human going, well, someone's walking into the shop and they're asking for this, and I go, well, you just have this, or it's exactly the same, effectively. So there's that lag, and there's that understanding. Even though you think, well, if you walk into our warehouse and bedding everywhere else, you wouldn't go, we're low on stock. It looks full.
No, yeah. Obviously, it's absolutely full. No, but I think that spreadsheet you were talking about is what I've done. I've done that spreadsheet because I connected it to the obviously sheet, connects to Shopify. It pulls off the data, pulls off the inventory, pulls off the products by product type, by brand, and I can see the contribution, and I can see it. It's there. And anybody who wants that report, we'll add it to their sheet.
I think I was just looking at that.
Anyone who's listening to this,
I just saw something new.
I mean, I've been working on it, in my own time, because I'm a bit of a nerd.
You're a geek.
But so we'll be doing that. Started off with our bedding one, and was like, oh my god, that sheet, like, it really told me where the focus needed to be, and then I did it for everybody else, and it was quite amazing what I found that essentially it was absolutely that 80% of the contribution was coming from 20% of the products, and near as damn it. And in some cases it was even more extreme. It was like 90% was like 10% of the products. And the businesses that were not doing as well, or that were struggling, were the other way around. That they had a lot of products where the contribution was spread very thinly across lots of products, and it was nearly always the case. The businesses that were scaling faster were the other way around. They had a much shorter, much tighter concentration of products, that was giving them the lion's share of the profit. So a couple of the ones that were notoriously poor. There's a business that was selling, that we've just taken them on, and they're selling it's an accessory for a car, and they've got something like 2.8 thousand products in the feed. Yeah, and so basically it's everything spread very, 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 very thinly. Google has no idea what to push. It was the smallest budget, and they were spreading it out over 2,800 And it's like, what, in that scenario, it's such a huge SKU count that it's going to take such a long time for Google to have any confidence that you've got anything worthwhile, focusing on and pushing. So in that scenario, Mark, because there's a couple of businesses who there's a business in the US that's selling like a hobby business, and they've got like 50,000 products. And the other business in the UK that's selling the car accessories, and they've probably got about, it's about 3,000 products. What would you do with that? Like, how would you go into the market? Say that take the 50,000 product SKU in the US hobby business. What would you do? Because some people, like, as default, people put it all in the feed, don't they? Like, okay, in order to start, what would you do?
If you look at mature businesses like that who come to us, you'll always find that their feed on Google Shopping is optimized into the 80-20 rule. So there'll be the top 20% of products driving 80% of the clicks. So Google will start to optimize and start to promote the products, and it'll start, like, effectively what it's looking for is products that work for you and product that works for Google. So products that work for Google are high click-through rate products that searchers find that are relevant to them, that suits their needs and don't come back to Google and research again. And then products that work for you are the products that also get, once they click, they get high ROAS, they get good return on investment. So over time, Google will match what it needs with what you need, and then it will find the products that it wants to push. So really the only thing that you've got to work out is how to get to that position faster than other times. So effectively, if you got 50,000 products, if it was me, it's easier because I've seen so many e-commerce businesses that I could go and have a look, and I'd say, well, I think that probably your top products are going to be these ones. So I might start with, out of 50,000, I might pick 2,000 products to optimize those first, because I probably know that they're going to be the 20%. But if you don't know that, effectively, you're going to have to do the research to work out which ones you might want to start with. Because if you've got 50,000 products, there's a subtle rule that if you want to optimize, you need $1 per product per month. So you're not going to start with $50,000 worth of spend on Google Ads. So if you are going to start with $2,000, start with 2,000 products. That's probably that simple. Also, if you've got 50,000 products, you could maybe simplify it a little bit. Maybe there's too many variants, and maybe you just show the lowest cost variant. It's got the same image. There's things you could do to kind of simplify the feed a little bit.
Well, I was thinking from a stock perspective as well, because there's another business that's during the program, and what was happening is that they had I think it was about 5,000 SKUs, something like that. Pretty big, reasonable number, isn't it? 5,000 SKUs, but they didn't necessarily. But what was happening is they had a lot of SKUs, but no depth of stock, and so within Google and Meta, they were doing quite well, and then the bestsellers would sell out, and of course the ROAS would tank. But they tried to prop it up by spending more to get people to buy the other things, but it just didn't ever fly. So essentially they were yo-yoing all the time. And so they would sell, push it, it would sell out, they'd run out of stock, they'd have a lead time, capacity of whatever it might be. I think actually this was a wholesale business. This was buying from a UK wholesaler. So it wasn't ridiculous, but it was still like 3 weeks. So that's long enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have no stock for 3 weeks.
What's our replacement for bedding? I think it's quite long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 3.5 months. I mean, right now,
3.5 months.
Obviously there's an oil crisis, isn't there, which is affecting price of transport. But it's true. But obviously, so obviously that's why you have to have a stock rotation. You've got to have a stock rotation. Really, you're aiming for like 4 or 5 times a year that the stock should be rotating. Obviously, it depends on your lead time. It depends on your lead time and your sell through rate. But so you've got to continue to flip. So
I was just going to say, would you say that if you would, the fastest way to make money in e-commerce would be to have a small range of high selling SKUs with a high product margin with a long runway in the market is probably what you'd really want to look for. Obviously, with peak.
What do you mean a long runway?
A long runway would be something that. So let's say I was selling, I don't know, hair care for people with I don't know, specific type of hair who happen to be, I don't know, like builders or something. You know, what I mean is it's a very specific niche, and then you've sold to that niche and you've kind of saturated the niche. Whereas if you're selling, let's say selling white bedding, everybody's got a bed and everybody wants a white sheet. So there's a long runway. You can sell it into a really long runway of
You're
people.
saying the market size?
Yeah, I think that's a runway.
You.
I like a long runway.
Thanks for using a complicated word to make something simple really complicated.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying the size of the market is big enough.
A long runway.
Thanks.
I like that.
Long runway. What are you talking about?
Well, it's a good analogy. It's just like, if I get this business going, I can go for a long period. Otherwise, I'm going to have to stop. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes slightly more sense. So you were saying, in order to make the most money, you'd want to have a smaller SKU count possible, because from a logistical perspective and a stock rotation perspective, it's easier. You'd also want to have a lead time that was quicker, which in a way, that going back to that shampoo and conditioner business we mentioned before, their stock is because of what it is. It's manufactured locally. It's made in the UK. The lead time is I think it's weeks. Within a month, 3 to 4 weeks, if that. So it means there's not a massive inventory tied up in their warehouse. It's continually rotated. You can imagine that. What you don't want is stock sat there for a year that just doesn't rotate. You want it to be rotating in, out, as quick as you possibly can. But so the shorter the lead time, and the smaller the minimum quantity you can manufacture, the easier that is. You can imagine you can get really efficient. And it's less money tied up in cash.
So what would you do though? Stop. What would you do? Because obviously we're saying we're saying that having small amount of SKUs and scaling those well and gives efficiency and makes it an easier business to run, reduces the complexity. It's similar to the lady who was selling a whole clothing store and doing all this stuff, and she kind of went down to just do hair extensions and then started to do 5 billion a year from scratch. And so what would you, if you're sitting there as somebody who's got lots of SKUs, what would you do?
I think we see this in homeware businesses as well, right? That what Google and Meta want from you really is to know who you are and what you're selling. And so, for example, if you're a homeware business and you're selling stools, right? Kitchen stools. You're a homeware business selling kitchen stools, and you decide to start selling bedside tables. Right? So
Radical.
So now I'm selling bedside tables. Okay, so because you go, well, it's come from the same place as making my stool, I can get bedside tables. So all of a sudden you've got two completely different ranges. There's probably going to be no crossover between those customers at all, between your bedside tables and your stools. And also Google and Meta are going to go, what the hell? What are you selling? Bedside tables or stools? And I think it's rather than adding on another category, thinking, well, it's going to bolster our sales. Actually, you may well be adding a nightmare, a complexity.
It's just
you have
a risk.
To have enough
it's
range.
just a risk. I mean, we have
it's a
added
risk. There's
strategic.
No reward.
We have added strategic categories and changed businesses by adding strategic categories, and it has worked in the past. But it's only been done out of need to get the average order value up, or to have something to sell to the existing customers, or the lifetime value up. So you just got to realize that is a risk. I mean, a lot of businesses that are small, doing under 500k, under $1 million a year, you'd be better actually getting really good at selling those few products and just doing that really, really well and being really efficient with that. It's a bit like what Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger used to say, is they didn't kind of agree with the diversification. It's like you don't have all your eggs in one basket. They'd say, have all your eggs in one basket, and then just watch that basket really carefully and look after that basket, rather than having, if you had 10 10 eggs and you wanted to look after them, you wouldn't go and just randomly put them in different baskets and just hope they would be okay. You'd put them in the same basket and look after it. So I think it's like, focus on what you're really good at the beginning, become a specialist around those products, and just be the best in the market for that niche and scale with that as much as you can. And yes, obviously you're going to think, oh, what if that falls over? And what if that doesn't work? And what if the market doesn't like to buy it? But sometimes it's actually better to jump on that opportunity and to ride that as hard as you can, because that gets you to the next level. That gets you to the next stage. And
but it gets you to a point. Gets you a point where you've got an e-commerce business that you can sell, and that you let the future owner faff around, worry about that. If you can get it to 10 million and you're doing $1 million profit, nice 10% EBIT. Let someone else figure that out in the future. Honestly,
it's basically the bigger idiot. So there's this there'll always be a bigger idiot who will come on and take on this business off my hands and take out.
But they
well, hopefully you're giving them a business that's good. You're giving them a business.
Well,
that's good,
yes,
built,
but but it's like get to 10 million in the easiest possible, fastest way to do it. And add product categories out at your peril, because you'll be adding on complexity without. It has to make absolute sense. It has to either be something,
doesn't it? It's like saying, well, you can either have these few stocks and do really well and grow really thin, or if you just faff around without, worrying that that's going to end at some point, you can actually miss the opportunity and get completely distracted by adding, say, oh, I've got all these stores and they're selling really well, and I can't just be a store retailer. I need to start selling door handles. And then you go, and then you just completely fail in door handles. That takes all your capital and all your profit out of the business. So you can't scale your stores anymore, because you've not got the capital to do so. And then someone comes along in the next 2 years and they do the same stall as you, and it's half the price and it's just as good, and you've missed the opportunity. And whereas you could have pivoted at that point. Like, size allows you to do things that you can't do at smaller sizes. There's level playing fields.
Yeah,
there's not.
I would say
there's different playing fields.
And e-commerce is a really good example of where you get people searching for certain product or certain categories. I'm very happy to buy from different suppliers. I mean, look at in the old days you couldn't do this. If you wanted to go and buy a sofa and a coffee table and a chair and a whatever, you'd go to your local furniture store and you'd be buying it all. You'd be buying, I need a coffee table and I need a chair. Whereas now you go online and you're buying a coffee table from dolls and your
there's no friction,
bedside tables from Dusk, and you're paying for exactly.
Which is why, going back to that analogy about saying if you had a shop and you had two products, it wouldn't work, because in a physical shop, the browsing you've got to provide the browsing experience. The physical shop has to provide the browsing experience where they goes, I don't like that one, I like that one, and I need that one, and there's an interest. But when you're online, they're already, even if you've got your own store, people are actually almost selling in a marketplace. Like Google Shopping is showing you loads of different products. Amazon's showing loads of different products.
And you're landing on the product page, aren't you? You're there.
You can have 5 different tabs open of sofa websites. You can create your own browsing experience on your own browser. So even if you only sell one product, you're still someone is still having that browsing experience. And so it's completely different to a physical shop. You don't have to provide the entertainment of walking into a shop and going, oh, there's a lot of things I can see in this shop. That's not your job anymore. It's a completely different paradigm. And, because when someone walks into a physical shop, they're thinking, oh, I've made this trip to the mall. I better buy something, because otherwise it's going to be a wasted trip. Online, there's no job to get online, turning up your browser. There's no incentive to buy something just because you're online. And so it's a different kind of conversation. It's a different kind of look.
And I think, then we go into the whole recruitment product. You have products that you recruit with, and you have products that are add-ons.
Yeah.
Which add contribution margin. I mean, that's the other thing we've been working on recently is how do we get a greater share of volume or revenue of the customer, particularly with a product that has low lasting customer value. They don't buy any. It's adding contribution to the box. Anyway, that's a whole another rabbit hole.
I think we'll do some podcasts on Pareto's analysis, 80/20s, in other areas. There's a podcast we can do on 20% of the customers driving 80% of the revenue. There's 20% of the creatives that you do will dominate compared to all the other ones. I think that if we look through 2080 rules in e-commerce, there's probably a book there that we could write at some point when I retire and get lots of time to do things.
Yeah, indeed. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll write the book.
All right.
You write the book these days and you go, you put it onto Meta and sell it, and they go, yeah, I could write a book with AI as well. And you go, I didn't write it with AI. It just triggers
Actually
me
wrote it.
Actually bloody wrote the book. Bastards. Yeah. I don't think it would be a very good book still. Even with the standard of AI now, I think it would be pretty rubbish. I mean, it's just regurgitating things that are online, isn't it?
God, that's dangerous.
Oh God, I've had just to leave you with a story about AI recently. It's been I realized because it's a prediction engine, so it predicts the answer that it would expect to see on the internet. So it's got all the data on the internet and it predicts the answer. It's done a couple of things that have been really worrying for me because obviously I've been using it in some of my work. One of the ones Kath and I were watching a TV program and it was a series, and I was wanting to know what was going to happen because I was like, I don't really like where this is going. I kind of want to know what happens with the characters. So I said, okay, what's happening in this series? What happens to Catherine? And then it was like, Catherine's boyfriend has an affair, and then she gets breast cancer, and then she dies, or something like that. No, then she recovers. And I was like, and then I watched the next episode, and then right at the end of the episode, I was expecting her to get this cancer diagnosis. She didn't get the cancer diagnosis. She was hit by a bus. Like literally, like we're watching it, and then suddenly this bus came. I was like, whoa! And then went back to ChatGPT and I said, she didn't get cancer. She got hit by a bus, and it went, oh, I'm sorry about that. That's right. Yes, she doesn't get cancer. She gets hit by a bus. I was like, okay, right. And then I said, okay, what else happens? It said, yes, she gets hit by the bus and then she dies, it said. I watched the next episode. She didn't die. She recovered. Went back to ChatGPT and said, she didn't die. She recovered. And then it went, yeah, sorry about that. And I went, are you just making shit up? And it went, yeah, I don't know what the story is in the law. I was like, if you don't know, tell me. Don't just make shit up based on what you think's happening. And then the other thing I was doing was this was at work, and I was looking at someone's having a tracking issue, and I was like showing it the screen captures of the tags firing and all that kind of stuff. And this was Gemini. This was a different one because I'd gone off ChatGPT because of its hallucinations. And Gemini said, "Oh, there's your problem. Martin put the tag in on the 24th of April, and that was everything went back from then." I was like, so I was looking through the images, looking for Martin to see where the tag was Martin. I went, I can't see Martin, and then it said, oh yes, I can't read the images you put up. I just answered based on what I thought it was. I was like, stop making stuff up. Like honestly, if it doesn't know the answer,
it so confidently, doesn't it?
It's confidently
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just makes you realize, I go, you kind of want to put something fundamentally in it to say, if you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer. Don't make it up, because that's why it's such a weird tool, because you'd really need to know what the right answer is almost, because if it gives you the answer and you don't know where it is, people could be going down such routes of misinformation and stuff like that. So that scared me a little bit, because I didn't realize it would just make things up like so obviously wrong. Particularly like when I was watching a TV series and then she's like, oh yeah, she dies. It's like, don't flippantly tell my favorite character is going to die. Just like, and then she doesn't. Anyway, that was I digress.
Yeah.
That was how I finished it.
So humans not over yet?
No. So just be aware. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye.
Thanks, guys.